She was nobody. She had nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? She can't help the way she was born. She was born as a white person. She's a decent, respectful human being, a lovely young lady who goes out there and performs at the highest level.
Stephen A. Smith just broke silence after racist assault on Caitlin Clark, and that shakes the sports world to its core. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's golden child, was viciously attacked by racist trolls. The outspoken commentator has come out swinging, but this isn't just about defending a player. This is about exposing a much bigger problem brewing in the world of women's sports, and it's something that needs to be addressed like yesterday. Clark, who's been
rewriting the record books and lighting up
courts across the league, has become the latest target of an uglier side of fandom. Yes, I'm talking about vile racist messages and threats that no player should ever have to face, especially not one who's helped elevate the WNBA to new heights.
What does she do? She goes out in the WNBA and she balls out there as well, and she ends up being a league MVP candidate as a rookie.
And who better to call out the hypocrisy and dysfunction in the system than Stephen A. Smith? He's not pulling any punches, calling out not just the trolls but the deeper issues within the league that perpetuate this toxic environment.
Caitlin Clark, all right? The Indiana Fever star was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year earlier this week.
The headlines harsh, the tweets even worse. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's shining star, is at the center of a storm like no other. Playoff pressure, sure, but a playoff injury followed by a racist threatening email. That's next-level madness. In 2024, sports fans seem to have morphed from passionate supporters to full-fledged internet trolls. Unfortunately, Clark, one of the most talented athletes of her generation, has become their latest target. Way to stay
classy, internet.
Well, I think it was incredibly important to a lot of the sisters that have played in the WNBA. I also think it embarrasses black players, former, present, or whomever, who may, dare I say, have spoken against Caitlin Clark.
But here's the twist: it was part of a disturbing trend, a rising tide of hatred aimed at WNBA players paying during the playoffs when emotions run high and common sense goes out the window. Instead of celebrating athletes who are shattering records and redefining women's basketball, some fans are tossing out racist slurs and threats like it's a sport of their own. Caitlin wasn't having any of it. She called these trolls exactly what they are: trolls. Not
misguided fans, not passionate but problematic
supporters, just trolls. In her words, nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful, hateful comments and threats. You'd think such a simple, universally agreed upon statement would be unquestioned, but in today's internet culture, even basic decency is up for debate. Caitlin's statement wasn't just about standing up for herself, it was a broader message for the entire WNBA community. Why is it that these athletes who already have to fight tooth and nail for airtime, sponsorships and recognition also forced to battle this level of toxicity? Is it the ripple effect of a male-dominated sports world seeping into the fan base, or is it something uglier, something we don't want to face?
She took time to acknowledge that race played a role in her success this year. Here's a passage from the article in Times Magazine. Quote, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege."
Enter Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back, armed with a microphone and an opinion sharper than a three-pointer in crunch time. This guy doesn't tiptoe around issues, he kicks the door down and starts talking, and boy did he talk. If you're white, you're bright, you're right. That's how he described what he sees as a racial bias driving Caitlin Clark's popularity. Let's be clear, Smith even acknowledged how incredible she is on the court, but he wasn't about to let the
conversation stop there. He pointed
his finger squarely at the system, the fans, the media, and frankly society, and said this isn't just about basketball. And then came Smith's million-dollar question: is Clark's silence complicit? Let's unpack that. Clark has been vocal about the abuse she's faced. She condemned it publicly and in no uncertain terms, but critics argue that while she's quick to call out racism when it's directed at her, she hasn't said enough about the racist attacks aimed
at her peers. Is that a fair critique, or is it
expecting too much from an athlete who's already carrying the weight of a league on her shoulders?
What I actually say. The subject matter was Caitlin Clark. And you got people out there like Andrea Carter and Janae and others talking about merit. And Monica McNutt to a lesser.
Of course, Smith's remarks didn't sit well with everyone's shock, right? A man known for saying the quiet part out loud ruffled a few feathers. But did he back down? Not a chance. He doubled down on social media, making it clear that his goal wasn't to diminish Clark's achievements, but to expose a larger issue. And honestly, isn't that the point of sports commentary? To make us uncomfortable, to challenge the status quo, and to force conversations we'd rather avoid. This
isn't just about Caitlin Clark. She's
the flash show, sure, but the real story is bigger than her. It's about a league striving for equality, a fan base that occasionally reveals its ugliest side, and athletes caught in the crossfire. And let's not forget the irony here: the WNBA has fought tooth and nail to get to this point. They've battled for visibility, for respect for a seat at the table, and now that they are here, they are dealing with the same old garbage that's plagued sports for decades: racism,
sexism, and a fan culture that sometimes feels more like a battleground than a community.
Because when she came into the WNBA, For 22 plus years, they had been flying commercial. They were begging for chartered flights. She arrives there, and 2 weeks later,
Let's talk about Caitlin Clark, because honestly you can't talk about the WNBA right now without mentioning her name. The Iowa Hawkeye turned Indiana Fever sensation has taken the league by storm. She's breaking records, stealing headlines, and pulling in endorsements like it's a full-time job. But as her star rises, so does the heat around her. Is she a basketball prodigy? Undoubtedly, but has she become a racial lightning rod in the process? Oh, absolutely.
Clark's rise has been meteoric, no doubt. She's putting up insane numbers on the court, averaging 27
points per game in her rookie season, and she's carrying herself with a confidence that commands attention.
black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing, end quote. You see why I had no problem with her being Times Athlete of the Year?
She's a fan favorite, and for a good reason. Her deep threes, court vision, and fiery personality make for some seriously good TV. But let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Her popularity comes with a racial undercurrent that can't be brushed aside. The situation raises a tough question. How much responsibility does Clark bear for her fans' behavior? On one hand, she's not personally making these comments or sending these messages, but on the other hand,
when you're the face of the league, do you have
an obligation to address the toxic elements of your fan base? Thomas seems to think so, and she's not alone.
Clip 9.
But let's be real, this isn't just about Clark or Thomas. This is about a league-wide issue that's been simmering for years. Racism in sports isn't new, and the WNBA is no exception. Remember Liz Cambage, the former All-Star, spoke out about racism she experienced both from fans and within the league itself. Or how about Natasha Cloud? She's been one of the most outspoken players when it comes to social justice, and she's faced her fair share of
backlash for it. These aren't isolated incidents, they are
part of a pattern. And what's the WNBA doing about all this? Honestly, not enough. Sure, the league has made statements condemning racism and promoting inclusivity, but words only go so far. Where's the action? Where are the programs to educate fans or the systems to hold them accountable? The league prides itself on being progressive, but when it comes to protecting its athletes from this kind of abuse, it feels like they are always playing catch-up.
Well, she's had a profound impact on the game. She's elevated the profile of women's basketball because she's a superstar talent. She deserves to get her jersey retired.
Talking about Stephen A. Smith, because if there's one thing the man knows how to do, it's light a match and set the internet ablaze. When Smith dropped his now infamous "If you're white, you're bright, you're right" line, social media exploded. Half the world was like, finally someone said it, while the other half screamed, how dare he. Classic Stephen A., always walking that fine line between truth-telling and controversy stirring, and never apologizing for it. But let's not forget the people
at the heart of
this mess, players like Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas, who are living this chaos every single day. The emotional toll on these athletes goes way beyond the court. For Clark, it's not just about playing basketball, it's about balancing the highs of fame with the lows of being a target for trolls. Remember that racist email she received? That's not just hurtful, it's the kind of thing that sticks with you, that you think about when you're supposed to be focused on sinking free throws
or running drills.
And where's the league in all this? That's the million-dollar question. The WNBA has been loud about social justice, but when it comes to protecting its players from this kind of abuse, it feels like they are all talk and no action. Racism in sports isn't new, but it's 2024. How is this still happening on such a massive scale? This brings us back to Stephen A. Smith. Love him or hate him, his comments are a wake-up call. He's forcing us to confront
some ugly truths about sports culture, about fandom, and about
ourselves, and that's uncomfortable, but maybe it's exactly what we need.
But lack the level of recognition she received. Her heart has been in the right place. She deserves major kudos for her heart being in the right place. And then you're going to have white folks out there talking about, she's knocking herself down, or she's bringing up white privilege. Well, if you're white in America, in most instances, you are in a privileged position compared to people from other ethnicities.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Caitlin Clark or Alyssa Thomas. It's about changing the culture of sports for good. It's about asking the hard questions. Are we as fans failing these athletes by not holding ourselves accountable? Are the leagues doing enough to protect their stars, or are they complicit in their silence? So let's stop pretending this is just a sports issue. It's bigger than that. It's about humanity, respect, and dignity. And if we can't
get that right, then what are we even doing here?